The Revenant is a 2015 American action drama film. This film tells the story of Hugh Glass, a hunting expedition in the uncharted American wilderness, after being attacked by a bear and left for dead. This man was Hugh Glass. He was a European who married one of the Indian women from the Pawnee tribe. The Pawnee tribe was one of the original Indian tribes among the many Indian tribes in America. Glass and his half-Pawnee son, Hawk, were working for a European fur businessman named Captain Henry. Glass served as a guide in the American jungle. One day, when the workers were busy preparing animal hair, the company's camp was attacked by a group of Indians from the Ree tribe, the Indian tribe of another region. Hearing the screams of the workers, Glass and Hawk were shocked. The two of them rushed away to where the workers were. Many trappers were killed during the fight, and the rest escaped onto a boat. Of the 33 workers now, only 10 people remained. They chose to return to Fort Kiowa, where the European workers gathered. In the middle of the journey, Glass told Captain Henry that the Ree tribe would be able to catch their boat because this river was the territory of the Ree tribe. Glass suggested they all take a walk through the woods. Hearing this suggestion, Captain Henry ordered his assistant, Fitzgerald, to pull over the boat. After docking, the crew stashed the pelts near the shore, and the journey continued. As a guide, Glass explained that the mountain route was the safest. There was very little food there, and the Ree tribe would have no way of going there. After hours of walking, they finally rested. When other workers went to sleep, Glass went hunting for food alone. But in the middle of the hunt, suddenly Glass was mauled and left near death by a bear. The Glass was dying from a bear attack. Not long after, Captain Henry immediately ordered the workers to help Glass. Because he had studied medicine, Captain Henry also tried to replace the energy to heal Glass's wounds with makeshift equipment. Glass survived. At night in another forest area, the Ree tribe came to meet another animal fur businessman named Toussaint. It turned out that the reason the Ree tribe attacked Captain Henry's party was to steal their furs. As a reward, the Ree tribe would receive several horses and rifles. The Ree tribe was forced to do all that because the chief's only daughter had been sacrificed by an unknown European. They pursued the shooter's plans, but without horses, they would not be overtaken, and without rifles, they could not win. The next day, Captain Henry with the whole group continued their journey to the warehouse. Seeing that Glass's condition was terrible, he had to be carried. When passing through a steep cliff, the workers had difficulty carrying Glass. They began to feel that Glass was a burden, and even Captain Henry felt the same way. With a heavy heart, Captain Henry decided to kill Glass, thinking Glass was useless again. Hearing that decision, Hawk and his best friend Jim were shocked. They both begged the captain to retract his decision. Captain Henry pointed his gun at Glass but couldn't bear to kill someone as good as him. Instead, he offered money to pay someone to stay with Glass and bury him after he died. When the only volunteers are Hawk and Jim, Fitzgerald agrees to abide for money to recoup his losses from the abandoned pelts. That night, Hawk continued to encourage his father while whispering a message from his late mother, namely, "As long as you are still breathing, keep on living, and never give up." Glass then remembered the past. During the period when his village was attacked by European troops, everyone there was slaughtered and burned to the ground, including his family. Since then, Glass has always lived in regret. Why couldn't he save his wife's life? After 2 days of caring for Glass, Fitzgerald had had enough. He was annoyed why Glass did not die even though he was already dying. Fitzgerald had an idea. He approached Glass and made a deal that if Glass allowed Fitzgerald to kill him, he promised to safely bring Hop and Jim back to the warehouse. But if Glass refused, then he would kill Hawk in front of Glass's eyes. Fitzgerald asked Glass to blink in agreement. Because he was constantly urged, Glass finally blinked. Seeing Glass wink, Fitzgerald attempted to smother Glass, but Hawk neutralized him. Fitzgerald, afraid that Hawk's loud reaction to his attempt to kill Glass could alert Jim, who was away gathering water, stabbed Hawk to death as Glass watched helplessly. Glass's heart was so broken. He could only silently watch his son being killed without being able to do anything, just like when his late wife was killed. In the evening, Jim just came back with groceries. He then asked Fitzgerald where Hawk was. Without guilt, Fitzgerald simply replied that he didn't know and then told Jim not to worry because Hawk wasn't a child. The next day, Fitzgerald frantically woke Jim, saying that when fetching water from the river earlier, he saw dozens of Ree tribesmen surrounding them. Jim panicked. He immediately took his things, but suddenly, he remembered that Hawk had not returned and Glass was still sick. Jim turned to Fitzgerald for help. Instead of helping Fitzgerald, he dug Glass into a hole and buried him alive. Fitzgerald said that if Jim still tried to carry Glass, then he would indeed be killed by the Ree tribe. Hearing Fitzgerald's words, Jim protested, but he ultimately followed Fitzgerald after the latter left Glass half-buried alive in a makeshift grave. Bridger left his canteen, where he engraved a spiral symbol with Glass. After Jim and Fitzgerald left, Glass tried desperately to move his paralyzed body. Glass managed to crawl slowly. He approached Hawk's corpse. Glass kept looking at the son he loved, the son he had raised alone for so many years, the son who has always accompanied him since his wife died, and now his son could no longer move forever. The next day after saying goodbye to his son, Glass struggled to get up while enduring the pain all over his body. Glass kept crawling. Now he has one goal in life: revenge. Day after day passed, and Glass struggled to survive. He performed finding food, treating a superficial cauterization of his wounds, and practicing walking. One day when Glass was resting by the river, a group of the Ree tribe came. Glass then hid behind the river rocks, but one of the Ree tribes knew where Glass was. Glass managed to escape by jumping into the water rapids. The next day when Glass checked the fish trap he made last night, he saw a fish trapped there. Glass immediately caught and ate the fish. How happy his heart was! He was very grateful. After days of only finding leftovers, he could now eat a whole fish. That night, Glass woke up hearing what sounded like a wolf howling. When checked, he saw Pawnee refugee Hykuk, an Indian tribe man from another region, eating raw venison. Glass, who had only eaten fish this morning, felt hungry. Glass was desperate to approach the man to ask for some meat. Seeing Glass's condition, Hykuk felt sorry. He then gave a tiny bison to Glass. In the morning, when Glass was still sleeping, Hykuk examined the wounds on Glass's body. When Glass woke up, Hykuk asked why Glass could be injured this badly. Glass told a few days ago he was attacked by a bear. A few days after he was attacked, his son was killed before his eyes, and now Glass was determined to avenge his son's death. Hearing Glass's story, Hykuk said that their fate was the same. He ventured all the way here because he had no one left. All the people in the village and his wife and children have been slaughtered by Indian tribes from other areas. The man said, "Revenge is in the Creator's hands. Instead of revenge, it was better to try to let go of everything that had passed and start a new chapter of life." He also invited Glass to travel with him to find the Holy Book. Hearing all this advice, Glass realized what he was doing was wrong. Glass agreed to accompany the Indian man searching for the sacred text. On the other hand, after leaving Glass, Fitzgerald, with Jim, arrived at the warehouse. Before seeing Captain Henry, Fitzgerald orders Jim not to tell the captain anything. They would both be hanged if Jim dared to open his mouth. Hearing Fitzgerald's threat, Jim could only comply. In the room, Fitzgerald concocted a story that Glass had died peacefully while Hawk left because he couldn't accept the fact that the only family member he had died. Captain Henry was both sad and proud of his two men who had successfully completed their task. The captain then gave the money according to the agreement. When receiving the money, Jim was silent and then left. It was snowing. Glass and Hykuk continued their journey, but in the middle of the trip, Glass suddenly fainted. As a storm approached, Hykuk constructed a makeshift sweat lodge for a feverish Glass to shelter in. After a hallucinogenic experience in the lodge, Glass emerged to discover that his wounds were healing. In the morning, when Glass woke up, he was confused not to see Hykuk anywhere. Glass thought maybe he was out hunting now. Glass then got ready to catch up with him. After walking for a long time, Glass saw the body of a dead man hanging from a distance. As he approached, Glass was so surprised that the corpse was the corpse of Hykuk, the Indian tribe man who had helped him all this time. Glass heard the voices of several people chatting. He was sure they were the killers. When observing from a distance, Glass realized that these people were Toussaint's group, a fur businessman from Europe who worked with the Ree tribe. Glass was very angry when he heard that Toussaint's men insulted and belittled the Indian tribe man, even though he was innocent. Only because they hated the Indians, they had the heart to kill him cruelly. Glass also saw a girl. The girl was the kidnapped daughter of the Ree chief. It turns out that Toussaint has been lying to the Ree tribe all this time. Toussaint took advantage of the Ree tribe by saying that if the Ree tribe wanted to save the chief's daughter, who was kidnapped by Europeans, they had to collect animal hair and exchange it for weapons to win against the thieves. In fact, Toussaint himself was the kidnapper. Toussaint deliberately used them to attack and steal animal hair from Captain Henry's entourage. Glass infiltrated their camp and saw the leader raping Pawaka, the daughter of the chief of Ree. Glass freed her. He killed several hunters and recovers Hykuk's horse. Glass managed to escape. In the morning, while resting, suddenly, the Ree tribe troops attacked him. Glass was ambushed and driven over a cliff on his horse by Ree tribe. When he came to his senses, Glass felt very cold. Seeing the horse's carcass in front of him, Glass cut open the horse's stomach and entered it to warm himself. After the snow stopped, Glass continued on his way. His determination to kill Fitzgerald to avenge his son is back. A frightened French survivor staggered into Fort Kiowa. Out of pity, Jim immediately opened the gate. In front of Captain Henry, he said that 2 days ago, a stranger suddenly attacked Toussaint's group. He then showed me a water bottle that had been left behind. Jim recognized it was the bottle he had left for Glass in the woods. Jim thought it must be Hawk. Hearing Jim's words, Captain Henry rushed to order his men to go to where Toussaint's group was attacked. When all was getting ready, Fitz froze silent. Maybe for Jim, it was Hawk because he didn't know that Hawk was dead. But Fitzgerald believed Glass was the culprit. Glass obviously must be for revenge. When he got there, Captain Henry ordered all the troops to scatter. Looking for hours, everyone looked desperate until they heard gunshots. When they checked, they were surprised to see that the person who shot just now was Glass. Captain Henry immediately ordered his men to help Glass. In the morning, Captain Henry's warehouse directly looked for Fitzgerald. Unfortunately, Fitzgerald had run away. In the medicine room, Glass told Captain Henry all the actual events. He then asked for a horse and a gun. Glass also asked Captain Henry not to punish Fitz because he was the one who would catch and kill Fitzgerald with his own 2 hands. Captain Henry was worried that Glass's condition had not fully recovered. At first, he forbade it, but when he saw the look of anger in Glass's eyes, Captain Henry was forced to allow him to go on condition that he would also go with Glass. Glass and Captain Henry set out in pursuit of Fitzgerald. Glass, who has been a guide for years, also had strong instincts. He could easily find traces of Fitzgerald. They both then split up. He went west, and Captain Henry went east. As Captain Henry walked, Fitzgerald suddenly appeared, pointing a gun. Glass heard gunshots. He rushed to the source of the sound. There Glass saw Captain Henry dead. He was sure this was all Fitzgerald's doing, and now Fitzgerald must be hiding somewhere. Glass then gets an idea to lure Fitzgerald out of his hiding place. Glass placed Henry's corpse on his horse in an attempt to act as a decoy and shot Fitzgerald in the arm. Even though he's been cornered, Fitzgerald still feels innocent. He casually explained that it wasn't his fault he killed Hawk. Hawk died because of his own fault that he was too loud and kept screaming. Hearing Fitz's words, Glass was really angry. When he was about to kill Fitzgerald, it was seen from across the river that the Retribe group was looking at him there. It turned out that there was also the daughter of the head of the Retribe who had regrouped with them. Instantly, Glass remembered the advice of Haikuk, who saved his life. That revenge was only in the hands of God, not humans. Glass ultimately decided to drop Fitz. Across the river, the Re-Chief pulled Fitzgerald's body and slit his throat. He did that as a token of gratitude for saving his daughter. After the long journey, Glass came home. On the way, he saw the shadow of his wife smiling at him as if she was happy to see Glass now being able to let go of the child he loved so much. Thank you to those who have watched from start to finish. Please like this video if you enjoy it, and don't forget to click subscribe. See you in the next video.